Flash floods have devastated Texas in the southern United States. More than 100 people have died, many of them children. Nearly 200 are still missing. Hello and welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Munman Bhattacharya. Today we look at why the Texas floods were so deadly and what factors made this disaster worse. Let's start by understanding what happened. Early last Friday, while most people were still asleep, sudden and powerful flash floods hit the Texas Hill Country, a region in central and southern Texas. In less than 2 hours, the Guadalupe River rose sharply, reaching a height of about 30 feet. That's taller than a two-story building. The water swept through homes, camps and towns with alarming speed. Flash floods occur when heavy rain falls in a short time and the ground cannot absorb it quickly enough. The result is fast-moving water that overwhelms rivers, roads and communities. The worst hit area was Kirk County. One of the most tragic scenes unfolded at Camp Mystic, a nearly 100-year-old Christian summer camp for girls. Many young girls were killed and others went missing as the floodwaters rushed through.
A week ago at Camp Mystic, I had 5 granddaughters in Camp Mystic, and they finished their first session and they're home now. But some of their friends were there for the second session, and my heart goes out to all those little girls.
Rescue teams from federal agencies, nearby states, and even from Mexico joined local search operations. But as time passed, hopes of finding more survivors began to fade.
What you see out here is volunteers from military, ex-military to localized civilians that are coming out to help search and rescue for whatever we can find in the area, and it's all coordinated by volunteer efforts.
Best case scenario is we find some folks who are still alive, get them the help that they need, and just send them back to their families for a happy reunion. Best possible ending to this scenario, but we recognize that 3 days out, there's likely a fair amount of folks who unfortunately did not survive as well. But being able to find the remains and perhaps let their families know some clarity on what exactly happened for sure.
A flash flood warning remains in place for parts of Texas. Across the state, flags have been lowered to half-staff to honor the victims. The man you see on a wheelchair is Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Abbott also took an aerial tour of Kirk County to assess the damage.
The hearts of our fellow Texans are breaking every single day because of what people of this community and the surrounding area are going through. There's nothing more important on our hearts and minds than the people of this community, especially those who are still lost.
The disaster has raised serious questions about the government's preparedness and response systems. So why is the government facing criticism? Under President Donald Trump, the Department of Government Efficiency made budget cuts to the National Weather Service, or NWS. This reduced funding and led to a sharp drop in staff numbers. The Trump administration also proposed more cuts to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, the agency responsible for climate research. The NWS operates under NOAA. By early June, the NWS had lost around 600 workers due to layoffs or retirements. Some Democratic lawmakers argue that having fewer staff at NWS makes it harder to respond effectively to extreme weather events like the recent floods in Texas. Still, the government did issue multiple flood warnings ahead of time. The Trump administration has denied that staff shortages at weather agencies were to blame. Officials said the floods were larger than expected and could not have been predicted. Let's hear from President Trump.
The response has been incredible, and the fact that we got along so well, I don't know, I don't even think that's a political thing, but we got along so well, and it was so unified. I think a lot of lives have been saved. That could have been as bad as it was, and you could have lost double or triple. This thing was just really horrible. Well, congratulations on a great job, and appreciate it.
Let's now understand why this particular flood was so deadly. First, timing. The floods struck during the overnight hours and over a holiday weekend. Many people were unaware of the danger and had little time to react or evacuate. Second, the geography. The Texas Hill Country is naturally prone to flash floods. It's even known as Flash Flood Alley. The region has steep hills, narrow canyons, and a long cliff called the Balcones Escarpment. When heavy rain falls, it runs quickly off the slopes rather than soaking into the ground. The soil here is often dry and compact, especially after droughts. This makes it act like concrete. Water flows over it instead of being absorbed. The runoff pours into narrow rivers like the Guadalupe, which can rise very fast. These features make the area extremely dangerous during intense storms. And then, of course, we cannot ignore the role of climate change. Human activities that release greenhouse gases are making the Earth's atmosphere warmer. A warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, around 7% more for every 1 centigrade rise in temperature. This means storms are more intense and can bring much more rain in a short period of time. Scientists have already observed an increase in extreme rainfall events in Texas. Warmer ocean temperatures, also driven by climate change, are strengthening hurricanes and tropical storms. These storms carry more moisture inland, increasing the risk of flooding. So while the geography of Texas made the area vulnerable, climate change has made the storms that hit it even more dangerous. Now see this. It's not just Texas. This video is from the US state of New Mexico. Torrential rain triggered flash floods there too. You can see an entire house being washed away. And here are images from Washington, D.C. Flash floods swept through several areas after severe storms struck the region. The pattern is clear. Floods are becoming more frequent, more intense, and more destructive, not just in the United States, but across the world. 3rd December 2024, the day when China slapped the United States with an export ban on its critical minerals. Among the critical minerals banned were antimony, gallium, and germanium. China dominates these metals that are used in batteries, chips, and flame retardants. After China's ban, none of these critical minerals were supposed to reach the United States from China. This was Beijing's tit-for-tat move after Washington tightened restrictions on China's semiconductor sector. The decision was taken and orders were issued. But guess what? China's ban ended up only on paper, as it is being bypassed by buyers in the United States. And how? Reuters reports that even after China imposed the export ban, unusually large quantities of antimony came to the US from third countries. Those third countries are Thailand and Mexico. See this US customs data. Between December and April, the US imported 3,834 metric tons of antimony oxides from Thailand and Mexico. That's more than almost the previous 3 years combined. So in those 5 months after China's ban, the US imported more antimony oxide from Thailand and Mexico than it had in the previous 3 years put together. This suggests a significant increase in rerouted shipments. Now here's a case study that explains what's going on. Thai Unipet Industries is a Thailand-based subsidiary of Chinese antimony producer Yangsan Chemicals. In recent months, it has been doing brisk trade with the United States. Unipet shipped at least 3,366 tons of antimony products from Thailand to the US between December and May. That was around 27 times the volume Unipet shipped in the same period a year earlier. The buyer of Unipet's US shipments was Texas-based Yangtze and Essen. Before Beijing's ban, this buyer was importing most of its antimony trioxide directly from China-based Yangtze Chemicals. Now see this. While in 2023, neither Thailand nor Mexico were in the top 10 export markets for Chinese antimony, that changed dramatically in 2025 when both countries figured in the top 3 export markets for Chinese antimony. The inflection point was the ban. The point to be noted here is that neither Thailand nor Mexico mine significant amounts of these minerals. Thailand has only one antimony smelter, ditto for Mexico. In fact, Mexico's facility reopened only this past April. An antimony smelter is an industrial facility where antimony-containing ores are processed to extract and refine the metallic element antimony. This means that neither Mexico nor Thailand mine or process antimony in huge quantities. But still, they have now become major exporters to the US. This indicates that the minerals had originated from China and went from Thailand and Mexico to the United States, bypassing China's ban. US imports of all the 3 metals in question, antimony, gallium and germanium, this year are on track to be either as much or even higher than the levels before the ban, although at higher prices. This means 2 things. 1, there is a scramble for critical minerals, and 2, China is struggling to enforce its curbs as it competes with the United States for economic, military and technological supremacy. So how is this happening despite the Chinese ban? Not without the collusion of Chinese companies. At least one Chinese-owned company is involved in this trade, though trade data does not help in identifying the companies involved. Here's the modus operandi of operatives that bypass Chinese regulations. The process typically involves buying agents in China. They acquire the minerals from producers. These minerals are then shipped to an intermediary country like Thailand or Mexico. Sometimes they are relabeled as other goods. For example, they are relabeled as iron, zinc, or art supplies. This is done to avoid detection. From there, the minerals are exported to the US. Big shipments risk drawing scrutiny. And so Chinese logistics firms are careful not to send big shipments because of the risks involved. The Chinese Commerce Ministry has this to say: unspecified overseas entities had colluded with domestic lawbreakers to evade export restrictions, and stopping such activity was essential to national security. Let's now look at what the Chinese and American laws and regulations say. Chinese firms can legally export these minerals to countries other than the US if they obtain the necessary licenses. In cases of transshipment, Chinese authorities can prosecute sellers that fail to conduct sufficient due diligence to determine the end user. Whereas US law does not prohibit American buyers from purchasing Chinese origin antimony, gallium or germanium as long as the shipment does not come directly from China. US buyers exploit the legal gap that exists to source Chinese minerals indirectly. China launched a campaign in May against the transshipment and smuggling of its critical minerals. Offenders can face fines and bans on future exports. Serious cases can also be treated as smuggling and result in jail terms of more than 5 years. But enforcement has proven challenging, as Chinese companies have been described as extremely creative in circumventing regulations. Chinese companies are taking risks because for anyone willing to take risk, big profits are available overseas, where shortages have sent prices for gallium, germanium and antimony to record highs. So to sum it up, US buyers are circumventing China's export ban by importing critical minerals processed or transshipped through countries like Thailand and Mexico. And one or more Chinese companies are hand in glove. Having policies is one thing, and enforcing them is quite another. Beijing faces the challenge of giving its export control regime some teeth. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We'll see you next week with more raging issues. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Munmun Bhattacharya signing off. Take care and stay safe.